This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by David Price over Zoom. Dave, first and foremost, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, Andy. You're okay, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's always good to hear from you and to speak to you, mate. It's been a couple of months since we last spoke. You know, how have you found everything recently?
All good, to be honest. Just back to normal, pretty much, isn't it? Apart from the mass gatherings, but everything seems to be back to normal. The roads are busy again. People are back out and about working, and life has to go on, doesn't it? We've got to keep moving on, and I'm just happy it's back to normal. The kids go back to school in a couple of weeks as well, which is the final, the final one for us to complete normality, apart from being able to go to the match again. The gyms are back open. So yeah, all good.
How much of a relief has it been for yourself to kind of see things getting back to normal and knowing your kids can go back to school in a few weeks as well?
Yeah, a big relief, to be honest. But you just take things in your stride, don't you? You've got to at first when the lockdown happened and all that. It was like a big change and a bit of a reality check, wasn't it? But then you just learn to adapt, and it becomes normal to you. And then it's gradually eased back to normality again. So it's a relief, though. It is a relief because for the kids more than anything, they don't realise they're missing normal life and school life. They think they've cracked it. It's great, we're off school, but they don't know what they're missing. You know, it's an old cliche, but your school days are the best days of your life. They really are. You're spending all day every day with your mates, having a laugh, learning and all that. And you think it's bad until you have to go into the real world, don't you? And work for a living type of thing. So they can get their asses back into school ASAP.
Obviously, David, we know that heavyweight boxing, or like headlining, big heavyweight boxing is returning this coming weekend with regards to Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin. One of the main reasons we're catching up today. But before we come on to kind of that, just to stick with yourself. Last time we spoke, you said that for you to get back into the ring, you'd need to be something worthwhile, something to get your teeth into. Have you had any updates since? Have you had any kind of talks or anything?
I haven't heard a thing, and I don't expect to hear anything until fans are allowed back in venues really, and everything's back to normal. Because as far as the behind closed doors are concerned, I think they're reserved for fighters who are on the cusp of something big, like Dillian Whyte, who needs to keep busy, and he's in the frame for a fight with Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder or whatever. So it's important that he is still out there and keeping busy and active. And it's also reserved for up-and-coming, unbeaten fighters who are trying to build their careers and build a record. So I'm not expecting to hear anything until there's a decent-sized show that fans can go to. So as it stands, I'm not really thinking about actually fighting. I'm just, I am back in the gym though. I am back in a gym. I haven't thrown a punch, but I'm just back in for me lifestyle type of thing. So I haven't heard anything. No.
You mentioned last time, somebody like a Lucas Browne, previously, he had some comments around that when he fought Dave Allen, both of them saying they'd like to face you, whoever was successful, and you said that you'd be open to that Lucas Browne fight. Did anything kind of come about? Because I know Lucas saw, our part of our interview. Did anything come of that further?
No, nothing. We were messaging each other before. When was this? I think it was just after Christmas. And he said, "Is this talk of a fight between me and you real type of thing?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm definitely interested, and let's try and do something." But then obviously all this has happened, but that's still something that definitely still interests me, that fight. So look, it all depends what my mentality is like when I start back in the gym and start throwing punches again. Because like I said last time, the longer you go without doing something when you've been doing it for so long, you kind of forget what you're actually capable of. So it's like when Tyson Fury got himself out of shape and out of weight. You could see in his demeanour that he weren't the same man, confidence-wise. But then when he started getting in shape and that, the old Tyson Fury was coming back. You had that unbelievable belief and confidence in himself, because if you use it or lose it type of thing, when you start using it again, you start feeling good and you just think, oh, actually, I forgot how good I actually am at this. And so, you know, I could get back in the gym and start feeling great and think, fuck it, you know, get whoever on the phone and I'll take the fight. We'll see. I'd change my mind daily though. Some days I feel like just hanging them up, and then other days I think, you know what, I could have another couple of fights here in me where I can maximise me earnings potential out of the sport and then get out. It just depends how I feel. But the real answer will be when I'm 3-4 weeks into a hard training camp. Then I'll know.
When you're watching boxing's return and you're seeing the shows on now, I know it's all behind closed doors and it's alien to everyone except for those who are actually there. Is it giving you any hunger though? Is it giving you a further push to want to get back into the ring?
That isn't, no. That really, the behind closed door thing isn't really exciting me much. It's the big fight nights. You have to, you know, that my last few fights have been really lucky. Really, I've been on the big pay-per-view shows apart from the one in Liverpool, but that was at home as well, so it's had that big fight feeling. So I've been on big shows and I've been at the big events. Everything about them's big, and the behind closed door one hasn't really done much for me to go, I can't wait to get back in the ring. But there hasn't been any heavyweight fights on. That's the thing with me personally. I don't really follow boxing beyond my own weight, or if I know someone who's actually fighting personally. I don't really take the time to sit and watch fights unless the super fights as well, you know, like your Canelos and things like that. And I've never really been any different. So I think I'll probably watch it the weekend, and I've got a keen eye on it at the weekend because obviously I know Dillian and like Dillian and known him a long time, and obviously Povetkin knocked me out, and he's always someone I've followed and been interested in because he was in the amateurs at the same time as me and he was the daddy. So I'll be watching that with a keen eye, and I'll probably get a bit of a buzz watching that.
Let's obviously come on to that fight. Whyte-Povetkin, a former opponent of yours, as you've mentioned. You know, I'm seeing a lot of people over social media, they're kind of writing him off, saying he won't pose as much of a threat now because he's coming towards those twilight years, or he's in those twilight years and he's kind of past it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely, you know, he's the wrong side of 40, isn't he now? But Povetkin's always... If you look at Povetkin's fights over the years, he's been in fights where he looks like he's about to, you know, fall apart in some fights. He's got that look about him. His hair looks scruffy. He looks tired in the mid-rounds, but he grinds it out. When I say his hair looks scruffy, you know, it can make you look a little bit, you know, more tired or beat up and whatever than you actually are. You look. Have you seen the film about Roberto Duran with Robert De Niro and Ray ourselves as trainer, and he used to comb his hair.
Yeah.
At the beginning of every round, he'd comb his hair back so he'd go out and the opponent would see him looking fresh. Povetkin doesn't really look fresh throughout the fight, but he manages to get through some difficult stages. I think Klitschko had him on the floor 5 times now, or 4 times now. Vladimir Klitschko, who's had anyone on the floor apart from Anthony Joshua, tends to finish the fight. Never mind 4 times, but Povetkin's got this steely grit and determination about him. And the Michael Hunter fight was one for me where I thought if he's going to lose, if there's anyone who's going to beat Povetkin at this stage, it'll be Michael Hunter, because style-wise, he's got that speed. he's a cruiserweight, really, Michael Hunter. So he's got speed and he's technically sound. And I thought his speed had caused Povetkin problems. And again, he caught Povetkin and he looked hurt, but he ground it out. So it's not going to be an easy night for Dillian Whyte, without a doubt. It won't be an easy night's work, but I do think Povetkin is the wrong side of 14. Dillian's improving all the time, and he's still fresh. So I think it's the right fight for Dillian.
What should we expect to see in that fight then? How do you expect it to play out?
I don't think it's going to be like an all-out slugfest. I think Dillian Whyte would be wrong to think go in and just try and trade with Povetkin, because he's got a good jab. He's got a great jab, Dillian. It's a long, accurate jab, and I think his jab's going to be the key, because he can control Povetkin with that jab. Povetkin has got that left hook. He whips the right hand over the top. The thing is with Povetkin, he's got good feet. He's got good feet and good judgment of distance. So if he'll land a jab on him, Dillian, but you don't very rarely see people land a straight right hand on Povetkin, because he'll see it coming. You know, especially off the jab. As soon as the jab is thrown, if the jab lands, he'll take that little half a step back, and he's out of range then. And that comes from his amateur schooling. He was a world, European, and Olympic champion. So he's got really good feet. He'll try and creep in and let his own shots go, but he's ready to escape a lot of the time. But he can be hurt. And if you look at Povetkin's fights, the majority of the time he's been hurt or stunned, it's come off a left hook. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe that his trunk is maybe a little bit square, so his right hand isn't tight against his head there. He holds his hands like slightly in front as he's creeping in. So Dillian Whyte's left hook is brutal, and it's got better and better. So, but what he doesn't want to do is go into a trade-off for the left hook, because then it's a lottery. Now, he's the man with more to lose in this fight, isn't he? He's in a position where if he was to lose, you know, he'd lose his shot and everything else. But this is not new to Dillian, because he's been in a position for that long and took on Joseph Parker, Lucas Browne, Oscar Rivas. Even his last fight against Marius Wach as a warm-up fight, you know, they're tricky. That's a tricky fight even. So he's happy to just get in and face top contenders, and so this is not a new, but I think his jab's going to be the key, and patience, and he's got that, because the Chizora fight, the second Chizora fight, was a fight where Dillian showed great patience, just using his jab. Derek was going all guns blazing, and he just waited, and when he seen the chance, he took it. So it's an interesting fight.
Dillian's brought in a man who you'll know well, Dave Caldwell, into his corner for this camp, not for this camp, sorry, for this fight. What do you make of that and the decision to do so?
Yeah, I think it's a good move, because I think the lad he's got in, who's took the training camp for him, I'm not sure he's got experience at that level. And Dave Caldwell's got it in abundance, so it's although he won't be actually up top in the corner with Dillian, he'll be in the corner, and his experience is invaluable, really, because he must be one of the most experienced trainers in the country now, Dave. You know, he over the years, he's took Ryan Rhodes to Mexico. He's had Bellew winning world titles. He's done a hell of a lot with Adam Bood as well in the big fight. So it's a good move, really, when you think about it. Really good move. I'm not sure what Dillian's training situation is. He left Mark Tibbs, didn't he, and brought this other fella in. But I think a lot of Dillian's training seems to be centred on his conditioning and his fitness, even though he is improving technically. but as long as someone's in the corner to just keep things calm, and if there's a bit of a crisis, to know what to do, I think it's a good move getting Caldwell in.
The WBC confirmed as well that Dillian will face the winner of a Wilder Fury trilogy next before a bout with AJ for an undisputed title clash. Is that the right move for you, or is it just a matter of you just rather see that undisputed title bout take precedence effectively?
I know. From as a fighter, it's the right for me. It's the right move. For the boxing fan, it's they want to see the undisputed, but that's always going to be there. That's always going to be there. Whether it's Dillian Whyte fighting Andy Joshua for the undisputed or Tyson Fury, whoever's WBC champion, we all want to see Tyson Fury versus Joshua. But again, it's going to be there whether one of them loses or not. Or so it's just about what's right, and what's right from a sporting sense is that Dillian Whyte gets his shot at the WBC title without a doubt.
Another heavyweight fight which happens next weekend, Daniel Dubois versus Ricardo Schneiders. If Daniel comes through that, he faces Joe Joyce, or at least that bout's lined up. Provided that does go ahead, David, how do you think the bout between Daniel and Joe Joyce will play out?
It's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to this fight more than any other heavyweight fight that I know of at the minute, because they're both at a stage in their careers where they've stepped up to the plate and going to take a risk, and someone's going to lose. But the beauty of it is whoever does lose can come again. You know, it's kind of like when George Groves fought James DeGale early on in the career. I know Joe Joyce is a bit older, but he's got plenty of time because the heavyweights can go on and on and on. He lives clean. He trains well. So it's an interesting fight and a great clash of styles, because Joe Joyce is just non-stop. The juggernaut, isn't he? Just doesn't stop throwing punches, and he's heavy-handed without actually putting much effort into his punches. It's kind of effortless. Whereas Dubois is more explosive and dynamic. So initially, I'm thinking Joe's going to take a few early on, because that's when he's at his most vulnerable, if you can call it vulnerable, because he can take a hell of a shot. But I think Dubois' best chance is early doors to try and catch him cold, because he's the one who's crisp and clean with the accuracy. If it goes past 2-3 rounds, it's starting to go into Joe Joyce territory, because he'll just wear a man down non-stop. So that's the beauty of the fight. It's one of them where every time you talk about it, you're like, I changed my mind from last time. So, but I think Joyce might come out on top.
Another matter in which Daniel and Joe are both concerned in was the message from Hearn-Warren to Eddie Hearn a couple of weeks ago. Firstly, what was your thoughts on that, David? What was your thoughts on Frank reaching out to Eddie in the manner that he did?
Was this about doing something together? Was it? Yeah, it's great for the sport, isn't it? It's just whether it's actually doable, I don't know. There's a lot of variables, isn't there? Like television contracts and things like that. But it'd be a great step forward. You know, it's probably the only. It's kind of like, if you look at MMA. You know, it's like UFC linking up with Bellator type of thing. Although UFC is the premier MMA company. You know, whereas Frank and Eddie have got similar strengths and similar size type of thing. So it'd be good. It'd be great if they link up, because they both got great fighters, and they put the politics aside. Again, it's about the sport, and it may be what's happened with the pandemic and everything else, where they may go, do you know what? You know, we need to change things up a little bit now and do what's best for the sport and best for the fighters. And if it means working with someone we wouldn't normally work with, and we just got to do it.
On the posters that were made by Frank, we saw Joyce Chizora and Dubois Whyte as two of the potential matchups. Just start off with Joyce Chizora. What would be your thoughts on that one, David?
be a slugfest, wouldn't it? An absolute slugfest. But I think Joyce may be a little bit fresh for Derek. Although he's only had how many fights? 8 fights. And Derek's having a great run. There's something about Joe Joyce that I just think he's gonna do really well. I think he'd be a nightmare to fight for anyone, but that'd be an absolute slugfest. And it's when Joe Joyce starts grinding people down is when it turns into a slugfest. But again, who's right Derek off, because he can slug it out. He's got a great engine, and he can take a shot. So I don't know. It's I'd probably edge with Joyce because he's fresher, got less miles on the clock.
And then the other fight mentioned in the heavyweight division was Dubois and Whyte. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, I think Dubois still got to pick a bit of learning experience up before fighting Dillian. That's why, Dillian's in the position he's in for a reason. He's beat the best of the rest, hasn't he? And Dubois still up and coming, and it looks sensational, but I think that might be a little bit of a step too far, too soon for him, which is no shame in saying that, because he's still early on in his career. But 2 years' time might be a different story. But I think Dillian, but not, it wouldn't be a massive favourite because Dubois has looked that good. The reality is experience. You can't buy it, and it counts for a lot. So where Dillian Whyte's been in that British title fight, even with Andi Joshua, where it was a war for 7 rounds before he got knocked out, or the 12-round fight with Parker, where they were both up and down, and the Reavers fight, all that would add up in his favour, and I'd have to say go with Dillian on that.
David, we'll leave that there, and I will leave you now to enjoy the rest of your day. Before I let you go, right. Any final words, anything you'd like to leave on?
Keep watching Boxing Social. It's fast becoming one of my favourite boxing channels.
Top man, David. It's been a pleasure to catch up with you.
Thanks, Andy.
Stay safe, and I'll hopefully see you soon in person.
See you soon.
Thank you for your time.
Cheers, mate.